So about a week ago I made a video on gender and I didn't upload it, and honestly I'm glad that I didn't upload it, just in terms of how kind of rambly it is. The audio quality's not very good, it's also very dark, so the visual quality's not very good, and I just feel like that I didn't really say that what I wanted to say, and to whatever extent that I did, it was just kind of packaged in on each side and too hidden by main rambling. So I'm hoping to do a much more coherent and hopefully concise video. Anyway, as I was going to say, over the past few months, really since I've came out as, well, I've not really come out as anything, but since I've came out as kind of queer, since I've openly had a boyfriend, or rather a husband, it has given me a lot more freedom, just in terms of how I go out, how I express myself. Again, just the kind of the freedom to go out, to buy whatever clothes I want, to wear whatever I want, to, again, just simply the freedom to be out. And with that, this has obviously led to quite a bit of experimenting, as I've went through a kind of baby gay phase, if you want to call it that. I mean, I've tried makeup, I've tried nail polish, I've tried skirts, I've tried cute little crop tops. Really just an attempt to see what I actually like wearing, kind of outside of gender roles or gender categories. I've been really thinking about my gender a lot more, and just the subject of gender in general. And honestly, coming to the end of it, I found that I really am just comfortable as I am. I'm not interested in makeup. Nail varnish is kind of, it's not necessarily that I dislike nail varnish, at least some of it, but it's not really my thing. I don't really like it. Not really interested in skirts or most kind of feminine clothing outside of maybe a kind of cuter setting. I definitely know that I like crop tops, so if there is nothing else that I found out just through experiment, is that I absolutely love some crop tops. I think I look really cute in them, but again, in terms of the really hard kind of feminine stuff, in terms of makeup, lipstick, nail polish, again, I've kind of experimented with it and I simply don't like it. I basically just like the way that I've expressed my gender in general. However, the one thing that I did find out during this is that, again, thinking a lot more about gender, the idea that gender is a social construct is never really something that I've understood or been able to accept. I've always seen sex as being the body and gender as the brain, kind of a transmedicalist in a way. Although thinking about it a lot more, reading about it, watching more videos, I've came to understand it. Although I wouldn't necessarily put it as gender as a social construct, although I do see it as one. I think a much better way to describe it is that gender is the codification and categorisation of sex-based predispositions. That is to say that broadly we're talking about biological terms. On average, males have certain predispositions, females have certain predispositions, certain kind of attitudes, things they like, personality types. There are certain predispositions there. However, these predispositions are only average, and there are predispositions based on other things than sex. For example, certain predispositions that people have on average with certain kind of mental disorders, people with autism, people who, just for example, might have a certain kind of hormonal level, people who have kind of broadly fit into one hormonal level might have certain predispositions, people who fit in another one, what is this, might have other predispositions. a lot of cloth, or people with certain body types, certain chemistries. My point is, there's lots of other physical and biological things and mental things that give people certain predispositions towards liking certain things, having certain attitudes, having certain personality types. The only other difference between those and gender, which is again the codification and categorisation of sex-based predispositions, is that with gender we put pronouns around it. We put very solid categories: man, woman. There are certain things that men are supposed to wear that women are supposed to wear. There are certain attitudes they should have, personality types, certain kind of professions, certain interests, certain likes, dislikes, hobbies. There are all of these things. And again, when I say by this that gender is the codification and categorisation of certain sex-based predispositions, it's basically taking males and observing that males on average are more interested in one thing. It's taking females and observing that they on average are more interested in another thing, and it's taking that and codifying that, categorising that, and kind of boxing it off, alienating those two things from one another, to the point where it's went beyond averages, and it's went beyond to the point of this is what men like, this is what women like. So male and female, or biological categories, whether it's man and woman, or these socially created categories that are based on, again, the very harsh codification, categorisation, you could say alienation of the two sexes from one another. And through realising the kind of arbitrary nature of gender, I mean, I've probably not explained myself well enough, but that was certainly a lot better than the last video. But realising how arbitrary gender is, the arbitrariness of the pronouns, of gender roles, kind of seeing people as most individuals, of course. Individuals who are maybe male, and on average we could predict that they like one thing, or that they have a certain kind of attitude, or an individual that is female and we could predict likes another thing, but nonetheless it's individuals. I've decided that it doesn't really make much sense that I go by he, him pronouns myself, or that I really identify as a man myself. Again, it just simply doesn't make sense in this kind of arbitrary view of gender. So rather, for mostly ideological concerns, and I consider myself as agender, I prefer they them pronouns. I'm not really out as agender, kind of IRL, but again, that's how I see myself, it's how I prefer to be seen. Although because it's ideological and it's not really based on kind of a strong sense of dysphoria or me wanting to act a certain way or dress a certain way. I mean, it's not great, it isn't great, but it isn't exactly the biggest issue ever. I can obviously recognise that binary trans people have it a lot worse, and I wouldn't necessarily identify myself as trans. I don't think that'd be really fair. But given that, I think that's the video just about done. Again, I've experimented with different things, with different feminine things, and I've found that kind of day to day and average, well, I want to express myself differently to how I've been kind of forced to, and how I've done to in the past. That isn't really a gender based decision, it's just I enjoy wearing suits, I enjoy wearing shirts, I enjoy wearing ties. I mostly enjoy wearing, again, a kind of day-to-day basis, things that are associated with men. You could say maybe doing more masculine things, I don't know what you would really call that, but I also like crop tops, I also like some feminine shows, some feminine things, I like unicorns. Again, I think and I'm very glad that my feelings, I literally just did the video on sexuality before this, I'm very glad that my feelings on gender are much stronger and much more kind of clearer and concrete than my feelings on sexuality. But really, I'm just comfortable with my gender. I'm comfortable with being a gender, maybe being stereotypically more masculine, more interested in masculine things, but not really caring if I'm perceived as feminine, perceived as masculine, not caring if what I'm wearing is one or the other. Again, just not kind of caring about gender at all, basically.